There's a price for everything, and when it comes to moving to Europe or doing any kind of business or residence or citizenship in the European Union, that price is going to be higher. I've run into a number of misconceptions that folks have about moving to Europe that I'm going to share with you in this video. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and before we get started, let me just preface the perspective that I'm coming from. My perspective is the 6- or 7-figure earning entrepreneur or investor, the rich guy who wants to go and live in Europe, but comes from a perspective of not wanting to pay a fortune in tax. What we do at Nomad Capitalists is advise people on how to leave high tax countries and go to greener pastures. As we say, go where you're treated best. And so there's a lot of confusion around Europe because you have so many different worlds colliding there, okay? There are things like the German freelancer visa that is relatively easy to get, but not very tax advantaged, okay? And there are other restrictions as well. We're not necessarily going to talk about those, okay? We're not talking to the person who, has a $50,000 a year freelance gig and just wants to go and live in Germany and they don't mind paying the tax. We're talking to folks who are looking for more freedom and to keep more of their own money. And if that's your perspective, then Europe is a little challenging. I'm not saying it's something that you shouldn't do, but I think you should be aware, because here's the situation that I run into on numerous occasions with folks that I'm working with. Someone comes to me and they'll say, you know what, I'd like to spend a good amount of time a year in Europe. In order to do that, I would like to get a residence permit. And you know what? Maybe I also want to get European Union citizenship, whether it's for more schooling opportunities for my kids, whether it's I want the healthcare benefits, maybe I want to give up my current citizenship and I want an equally good citizenship to replace it with, okay? These things are all well and good. But the challenge that I see from folks, from the US, from Australia, from Canada, who don't just have the right to live whenever they want in Europe, is that these folks, like myself, grew up in a world where you have this amazing passport. You go wherever you want. You land anywhere in Europe. Here's my passport. Please come on in. Okay, keep it moving. They don't really bother you, okay? If you come from the environment that we Westerners come from, where you're not put in the back room when you go through the border, you're not hassled, you might just get the idea, as some people that I talk to have, where Europe is like begging for you to come. We have people who imagine that these European Union countries are just begging, please bring us your Americanness, we'll give you whatever you want. Oh, you're here? Okay, here's your passport. Don't pay us, it's free. It's not how it works. Like anything that has a successful marketing campaign behind it, Europe charges prices that are in line with supply and demand. And so as countries like China become wealthier, as demand from Russia and the Arab world, and now even Turkey and even the non-EU parts of Europe like Ukraine, as all these people have more and more money and they want to migrate to Europe, what happens to prices? What happens to the demands that they impose? Well, they go up because supply stays the same, or in some countries it shrinks, but demand is constantly increasing. And so Europe is one of those interesting places where on a legal basis in most countries, an Iranian is pretty much treated the same as an American. I mean, if you're an Iranian, you can go and get a residence permit in many of these countries. I've had so many lawyers in so many different EU countries say, we take pretty much anyone from anywhere. We don't look at it through this lens of morality. And so that's a good thing, but it also means that the folks who think that they're going to go and get their EU citizenship with $7 are mistaken. Now, I'm not talking about, you've got an Irish grandparent and you're entitled to it. That's a different thing. But let's talk about banking, residence, and citizenship for those who don't have that ancestral connection. Number one, banking. If you want to bank in a country like Switzerland, obviously not EU, but same approach, they're going to want $500,000 or $1 million generally for you to open a bank account there. Luxembourg recently contacted a bank that was highly recommended to us, €500,000. Not only that, but a lot of banks in Europe are really strict on who they'll open accounts for. They want you to be a resident. They're going to bother you. They're not like, you think that they're hard up for your money. I've tried to open accounts in some places, and I'll throw €250,000 in. Yeah, we don't think your connections here are strong enough. So not only are the numbers higher, but they're more demanding. Why? Because in their mind, they can be. Okay? So this is why when someone comes to me and we're talking about where they're going to be banking, I say, listen, I don't care which one we do, but understand that there's going to be more paperwork, more questions, more fees, more involvement with banking in, let's say, Switzerland than there is banking in Georgia. You can pick, but you can't have the best of both worlds. If you take Switzerland, you take everything that comes with it, okay? And that's why I'm often trying to steer people towards what I believe are high-quality emerging world banks, okay? Let's talk about residence. If you want a relatively tax-optimized, lifestyle-optimized second residence in Europe where you don't have to be there all the time and pay all their high taxes, then one of the better options for a lot of folks is the golden visa. It starts at €250,000 and goes up from there. So while you could come here to Montenegro and buy a shack apartment for €20,000 and get residence, you're going to have to pay a lot more just down the coast in Greece to get your second residence because it's the European Union. And on top of that, you're going to pay higher property taxes, you're going to pay higher legal fees to get that residence turned on, the government is going to charge fees, whereas here in Montenegro it costs about 13 cents to get your residence done. In Greece, it's going to cost more. Some of these countries have government fees. The Portugal Golden Visa program is not cheap. I think it's worth it for a lot of people, but there are substantial amounts of fees. Why? Because they can. Right? Montenegro is trying to bring anyone and everyone that they can, and even they're starting to say, all right, not too many Turks, please. Because that's what, because even they're getting frustrated with, too many people from some countries. But in the European Union, they can afford to be even pickier because, again, they have this great marketing campaign. It's like California. Everyone imagines it's amazing. Everyone wants to go to Paris. Everyone wants to go to Barcelona. And they never stop to think that maybe there are places that are better, cheaper, easier, more free. But it's simple supply and demand. Okay? It's simple supply and demand. If you want a residence in Europe and you don't want to invest that kind of money, you're going to start a company. But unlike in, let's say, a Panama, where the residence only requires you to start the company and then throw it in a dumpster, in Europe, they're going to say, you're going to hire someone, right? Show us your business plan. We need to put more money in the bank, please. Serious business would put €40,000 in the bank. What's your connection? How do we know you're going to be a real business? You have to satisfy them. And I've seen a couple cases where people have not been able to satisfy the various government officials and they didn't get their residency, right? So the burden is higher, the costs are higher. The same thing goes for citizenship. If your goal, let's say that you're a US citizen and you don't want to be a US citizen anymore, there is, for many people who are just, not entirely sure how this whole citizenship thing works, the idea is, let me get the EU passport because, that'll be just as good. Well, are you willing to live in that country? Are you willing to invest a lot of money in that country? Are you willing to learn the language of that country? The requirements are going to be a lot higher. For many people, it's better off just to go to the Caribbean country and make a donation, or to do what I call a fast-track naturalization program where you make a real investment and they just give you a passport quickly. But here's the bottom line. Whether it's banking, residence, citizenship, whatever the case may be, everything within the European Union is going to cost more from a legal perspective. The government fees are going to be higher. The accountants are going to be more expensive. The tax planning is going to be more involved. There's going to be more bureaucracy. It's going to be slower, generally. And the more you pay, the faster it'll be. Okay? The golden visas are processed faster than regular visas. In Cyprus, there's literally different tracks of, depending on how much you invest, we process you faster. So money always talks. But what I want you to understand is, if you've never had this experience of being asked to put up serious money to get into a country, understand that countries, immigration programs, and banking all operate through supply and demand. And if you've never been in a situation like this before, then you may be surprised to hear that. But what I don't want you to do is to go around thinking that the European Union is the great panacea and to think that somehow you're going to get in with a tiny, tiny amount of time and money, because that's simply not the case. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalists. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6 or 7 figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.